Today's episode of the Our Hen House podcast is being sponsored by our partner, A Well-Fed World. A Well-Fed World is a hunger relief and animal protection organization chipping away at two of the world's most immense, unnecessary, and unconscionable forms of suffering. The suffering of people hungry from lack of food, and the suffering of animals used and abused for food. Mending our unjust food system is a critical part of solving the world's most destructive and persistent problems. Fortunately, the plant-based foods that promote health and well-being are the same foods that conserve resources to better feed the world, while reducing greenhouse gas emissions and protecting the environment. A well-fed world provides the means for change by empowering individuals, social justice organizations, and political decision-makers to embrace the benefits of plant-based foods and farming. Learn more at awfw.org.
Our hen house is a squawking house. Our hen house is their hen house. Our hen house, ooh, it's a funky fresh house. Our hen house is your hen house.
Welcome to Our Hen House. This is Mariann Sullivan. Thanks so much for joining us for this, which is our 365th show. That's right, 365. Count them. This is an entire year of Our Hen House. You could listen to an episode every single day of the year. And it did take us 7 years to get here. We have not missed an episode, not one single week. But you can now listen to us all at once if that's what you want to do. And it'll only take you a year to get through it, assuming you go one episode a day, which seems like enough to me. But, if you want to listen to more, that's your business. So we feel pretty chuffed about this pretty momentous achievement. And so we have put together a really special show. My guest is one of my favorite people in the world, Sue Ko. She's an artist. Really, she's an artist of international renown. But she is also a person who's more deeply committed to animals on a really soul level than anyone. I love talking to her. She's thoughtful, knowledgeable, funny, and I just love her. Can you tell? And Jasmine will also be joined by a very special guest. Lula Greenfield Herold is in 3rd grade. She is also a committed and dynamic activist, and you're going to hear from how she stood up for animals at her school and what happened as a result. It's a pretty cool story. So I am actually excited for you that you're going to be hearing from these two activists, these two passionate people who care so deeply about animals. And one of the things that particularly fascinates me about Sue is how willing she is to go into the real heart of darkness. Her work, not always, and she'll be talking about how she is bringing just some goodness and hope to her work, but a lot of her work is very, very harrowing. The things she has seen, and she's seen these things in real life, and she's drawn and painted them. They're not always, but they really are frequently hideously painful. I have one piece by her that is drawn in a lamb slaughterhouse, and it's of a whole crowd of lambs, and one being pulled out and taken into the other room, which you can see in the distance, which is obviously where this lamb is going to be killed. It's a lamb being sent to slaughter, being led to slaughter. It's just hard to look at, but it grabs you so deeply, and I can't even imagine the kind of depths you have to go into your soul in order to create such a work of art when it's that hard to look at it. But it also really, it just crystallizes what it means when an animal is killed. And I just think that thinking about how hard it is to see these images got me thinking about the whole issue of lapsed vegans. And as we all know, the vast majority of people who go vegan don't stay vegan. And we really need to think about that. It's the fundamental problem of our movement. And the really mysterious thing is a lot of them don't go back to being almost vegan or close to vegan. I guess some do, but really a lot of people just turn it off. They just go back to their meat eating ways. They go back to the way they ate beforehand. They don't think, oh, well, I'll eat as little as possible. And one of the things that a lot of people in the movement have realized is that we need to shift our advocacy from why you should go vegan to how to go vegan. And I do think there's a lot of good in that. I think that one of the reasons people don't stick to it is that they find it difficult. And, I'm told that all the time. And it's probably true. Let's face it. People do have a hard time changing their eating habits. But, I have a hard time changing my eating habits on every other level, but I don't anymore on veganism. I mean, I did struggle for a long time with the occasional lapse, but of all the other things about food that I have a hard time resisting, non-vegan food is something that I really have never had a problem with. Because how to do it is really not that hard to figure out if the motivation is strong enough. So I don't think it's just a question of it being hard. And I'm not discounting the fact that it is hard for a lot of people, but I think there's more than that. And I tend to think that a reason a lot of people lapse is because when you are vegan, it's much harder to go into denial about what's happening to animals. It's much harder to confront those pictures like the things that Suko has drawn and painted, the photographs, the violent imagery and videos. It's when you're vegan, those things are things that you allow yourself to see because they're part of your life. And when you allow yourself to see them, you go vegan. It's like it's an automatic circular cause and effect. So veganism is kind of the opposite of denial. In action every day. So if you go vegan for the health or the environment, that's kind of a way of staying in denial, not thinking about the animals and still going vegan. And are all those health and environmental vegans really closet animal vegans? I don't know. It's a way of going vegan without having to think about it. But they those vegans tend to lapse more than animal rights vegans for the very reason that the animals are the thing that really drive their veganism, perhaps, or are one of the things that drive their veganism. And, I think that a lot of people who go vegan for those reasons really are still in denial about what's going on with the animals because it's so awful to think about. And it's possible, too, that you can go vegan for the animals and not think about that. That's what I thought would happen when I first went vegan. I thought, I'll go vegan and I won't eat any of these animals and I'll leave them out of my diet completely. And then I don't have to think about it anymore. Then it doesn't have to haunt me. It didn't turn out like that. I don't know whether it turns out like that for many people. I don't know. When I stopped eating them and it became very real to me that I wasn't eating them, I continued to think about them like pretty much all the time. So this is the thing. This is my long way of getting to this point. I want to consider for a moment the possibility that the people who eat animals and participate in all the other forms of animal exploitation without thinking about it are so sensitized to animals, so prone to empathy that they can't handle it. So they clamp down all those feelings by using denial. And in order to become motivated to become vegan, people have to face the fact that what we are doing to animals is unspeakable. And people don't want to face that. So they just shut down the whole mechanism. This is a basic human characteristic. I think it would almost be easier for people if what was happening to animals wasn't so bad. But it is bad. And what people do when things are really, really bad is go into denial. It's just a fundamental coping mechanism of human behavior, which we honestly couldn't live without. It's not, I don't think we should get rid of denial. We need it sometimes, but it does so much harm as well. And getting past it when it's doing this much harm is not easy. I mean, I don't know what the antidote to denial is. Obviously, one is hearing the truth over and over and over. The truth will set you free. The truth will get you out of your denial. But, people have an awfully remarkably good skill at being immune to the truth when they want to be. And also, not just telling people what's going on, but reasoning with people, confronting people's excuses with rational arguments, But the excuses that people come up with for eating animals are really things that come after the denial sets in. The things that people tell themselves to allow themselves to not go vegan, to make it sound sensible that they're eating animals, to make it sound okay, to get themselves off the hook. Like, it doesn't matter what I do, all these other billions of people are going to eat animals. I can't have any effect. These kind of things, which, it's good to chip away at the excuses, and there are arguments to confront all of those excuses. And there's certainly an argument to confront that one, but it's not the core problem. Denial is the core problem. Denial comes before the excuses. And denial is, as I said, it's this fundamental coping mechanism. It's part of the human psyche. Anyway, I was listening to Ezra Klein the other day on the Tim Ferriss podcast. Ezra Klein is a big podcaster, but this time he was not on his own podcast. He was a guest, and he was asked, this is a cool question. He was asked by Tim Ferriss, what do you want to talk about if you had a TED Talk, if you were given a TED Talk, to talk about something that you're not known for ever talking about, a totally new topic, but that you care about, what would it be about? And Ezra Klein, who was a major podcaster, and he's one of the people who runs Vox.com, and he immediately responded, I would talk about what we're doing to animals and how horrifying it is and what we do to the animals we eat and factory farming. I think it's a great crime. I think people 50 years from now will think, what in the name of God were people thinking? I was just blown away. I mean, I've heard that Ezra Klein is animal friendly, but this was strong. But what was interesting is he talked about his strategy for what he did when he found out. And he thought it was too hard to go vegan. And he knew that if he did, and it was a black and white thing, you're either vegan or you're not vegan, he knew that he would not only not stick with veganism, but that he would go completely back to eating animals, which is exactly what so many people do. So what he did was he didn't go vegan, but he built in a schedule for himself. And he was vegan except for certain things, like when he was traveling, because he found it too hard to find vegan food when he was traveling. And other exceptions, a few other exceptions as well, like things, eating sushi with this mother of a friend who he'd always eaten sushi with. I'm not defending these exceptions. I'm not saying they make any sense, but they made sense to him. And so that's what he did, and he stuck with it. And he's cut back on those exceptions, so that now he's almost totally vegan, not quite. I just thought, I was fascinated by this because, like, all of those exceptions to me, and I think to probably a lot of you, sound wrong. It's like, well, you can't ignore the lives of those fish who died for that sushi. Like, they died, and you can't ignore the fact that you're now eating their bodies. But he does manage to ignore it, and he manages, I suppose, to go into denial about those lives because he clearly cares about animals, passionately. But he uses this kind of partial denial. He just doesn't think about the ones he is eating as long as he's sticking to his rules. And he has to stick to his rules. And I don't know, I'm not sure I could pull that off, but he pulls it off. And maybe, I'm so far into being vegan, maybe I just can't think about it in the other direction. But I thought it was pretty interesting. And I thought it talked a lot about the role of denial and ways to overcome it, which I think is our fundamental task. Anyway, I'm going on and on about this. I want to get to our interviews. But before we do, I just want to tell you we made our matching grant. I've been talking about it. So you've probably heard me. And I'm so excited that we made it. It really does position us to go into 2017 with the hopes of really being able to get these podcasts out there every week and to do the Animal Law podcast. So we're in much better shape. So thank you to all of you who contributed. I can't tell you how much it means. It's not going to carry us through the year, so I will still be asking for everyone to become a Flock member and help support us that way. But it does give us a good start. So now let's hear from Sue Coe. This interview really is going to blow you away. Sue grew up next to a slaughterhouse in Liverpool. Yeah, a slaughterhouse. Think of what that does to you and your level of denial. Fortunately, she went the other way and completely got rid of denial. She also studied at the Royal College of Art in London, and in addition to showing her work regularly at galleries, she has contributed illustrations to the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Nation, Entertainment Weekly, Time, Details, The Village Voice, Newsweek, Rolling Stone, Esquire, and Mother Jones. She has covered it all. And her previous books include Dead Meat and Cruel. And among her many awards are the Dickinson College Arts Award, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Women's Caucus for Art, and a National Academy of Arts Award. She is an amazing woman, and she'll be joining me right after this.
One of our favorite flock members would like to dedicate this episode to the veg curious and those listeners who may not be vegan yet, but are kindly listening, perhaps alongside a loved one who is vegan. May 2017 be the year you are inspired to take the leap. I promise you won't regret it.
Welcome to our hen house, Sue.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be talking to you. It's been far too long since we've spoken, and you have done so many exciting things, and I want to hear all about them. Most of all, I one of the reasons we really wanted to talk to you was because of the book that you have been working on. I think that you're done working on it, though it's not out yet. And it's a manifesto. Can you tell us about it?
It's called the Animals Vegan Manifesto because I wanted to do a book that wasn't about humans and human diet and about the animals' viewpoint. And it's a little, very small pocket book. And I decided to do it all in woodcuts. And I announced that to my publisher without thinking how hard this would be. So it's 130 pages of woodcuts. And I got the wood because one of the big pipelines came through my garden. And it was a federal project. So it was eminent domain. And they cut down all my trees.
Are you joking? I had no idea that happened to you.
It was a lot of trees. It was...
Oh, my God. That's heartbreaking.
I know. It's because it's the wood that's most valuable to the animals is the cherry tree, which the bears use. The bears have to get up the trees to... They train their cubs to run up the tree, and the tree has to be hard wood. If they run up, soft wood, the branches just break. So the cubs are trained at a very early age just to run up trees. And those were a lot of trees they took down. And it was a battle of years of struggle. You know how it is against fracking and so on. And then I had the trees and they said they'd take them away. And I said, no, I don't want you to take away the bodies of the trees. And so I had the cherry cut up into planks. And I decided to make art on the cherry wood because it's the best wood for wood carving. And I was reading about Japanese woodcuts, and there's a carver called Shiko Munakata who worked in the 1930s. And he did big blocks of wood. He did beautiful animals and landscapes and mystical creatures on this wood. And he used those blocks as a bomb shelter in the Second World War. So most of them were destroyed because he didn't have anything else. And he said, before you even touch the wood, you ink it up and print it. So you just get the wood grain. And if you can't think of anything more beautiful than what the wood is saying, then don't touch it ever. So with that in mind, I printed up just wood grain and looked at it and then decided the animal story was important enough to be able to carve into the wood. And that's what I did. So it's a small pocket book of the journey of the animals to find a vegan world. And they are helped by humans at some point. So that's the story of the wood.
That's a beautiful and tragic story. I mean, it's beautiful in the sense that the wood came from someplace so meaningful, but it is so sad that happened.
I know, and it's just a constructive way to deal with it. And
yeah,
as
exactly.
I said, it was years of activism and going to those anti-fracking meetings, those sort of things where the frackers get first on at the community meeting, and then you have to wait till midnight to speak, and those sort of stories that are just part and parcel of the struggle. And so the wood is about the animals and the struggle, and the natural grain of the wood makes the animals' faces. And a lot of the animals in the book, they escaped the slaughterhouse. They made themselves visible. And the book's dedicated to one of the animals who escaped the slaughterhouse twice, Freddie, who's at Skyland Sanctuary. Freddie escaped the slaughterhouse twice.
Or can you share his story?
This was in Queens again, and he broke out. And I just heard it on the news, and they caught him and they took him back to the slaughterhouse. And I just thought it was like at midnight, and I thought, does Skylands know about this? Does Mike Sterler know? And I just emailed him. And it was just the best message I ever got. He emailed back, it was midnight. I was just laughing. He said, I'm outside the slaughterhouse now. And I knew he'd rescue him. And he did. And the next day he got him. And so that was twice out from a slaughterhouse. So many animals do escape, and they make themselves visible, and then people care.
Is that a real theme of this book? You said these are animals who I mean, so much of your work is about animals who are just about to be slaughtered or who have been slaughtered. Is this book about featuring the ones who got away?
It's everyone gets away in my book.
That's the happiest book you've or the happiest work you've ever produced, Sue.
It's so unlike seriously. Me. I had where is Suko? Where did they put her? Because someone else took over. This is the happiest book. And all the vegans, all the human vegans come out and defend the animals, and they find a vegan world in the end. And that's what will happen. It's either that or we all go down. So there's no other choice. And, you know, to bring us back to today, Trump can't take that away from you. He can't take away our choice to go vegan. He doesn't have that power. And this is, you know, for all the people that go, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? How can we resist? This is the one thing everyone can do that will change, create positive change.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's so empowering. And I see that when I travel around, that, you know, you give people that one thing, that one little hope, and they take it and they feel they can do other things then. And Trump is powerless to get into your mind. And he only promotes barbarism. And we don't have to go the road of barbarism. We don't have to.
Yeah, I totally agree that veganism it's a political act and a very powerful one, and we don't have to think now, what should I do? We know what to do. It's the same thing that we've been doing. We just have to do it more so.
Yes.
You know, there's so many people who really want to see change in the world, and they look at what's happening to animals and they're upset by it. But they just say, but look what's happening to humans. We can't focus on animals. They have to wait. So go a little deeper into why you feel that focusing on animals, which you do, it's certainly not the only thing you focus on, but which you do to an extraordinary extent. Why is it so important?
Because it's part of the root and branch of a social justice revolution. And it incorporates all social justice movements. And we can't have one without the other. You know, without, I can get really, it just always was the same to me. And I've done a lot of work, obviously, on other social justice movements. And this was just a natural progression, because if we don't get them all, no one is saved. We have to get them all the social justice movements together. And they're so linked. They're family, just like we're genetically related to everyone else. And it's something I I see this as a global movement. One of the things, traveling throughout the world, when we meet other activists, they have put together the pieces better than we can in the United States, because the United States is so riddled with end-stage capitalism, let's say, that it divides and conquers, constantly dividing and conquering, which is the oldest trick in the book, And you don't see that so much in other countries, where you see the animal rights and human rights people working together as one and the same. A really good example to me was recently, I went to the elephant rescue sanctuary in Thailand, and it was amazing because I saw local tribal people rescuing elephants, and I saw the whole organization was vegan. I mean, certainly the founder is vegan. She's a local tribal person called Lek, and her partner, vegan. And they put together those connections so brilliantly, and it was so natural that we're in this village of defending, protecting animals, and had the great privilege of being in that space where people from all over the world came, and they were introduced to vegan food, fantastic food, and could work with elephants, work with the dogs, work with the cats, work with all the rescued animals. And there was no emphasis on this is about human health or this is about your diet, or it was nothing like that. It was one revolutionary state that was very positive to be in that world. So we have to remember, in this world where we live, in America, it is divide and conquer. And so what we have to do is understand the forces of oppression here are so immense before we can dismantle it. Understand what we're up against. And I think that will happen now. That will happen. We just look at the Dakota pipeline, and that's definitely a victory. When we look at Black Lives Matter, they've done more with, cell phone apps than the Democratic Party combined. I mean, this is a genuinely grassroots movement that is not about consumerism. It's about justice.
Let's talk a little bit about the work. Your work has an unbelievably strong message, and you work in the art world, which is a world that is dominated by people of wealth and by really moneyed interests. And how does how has that world embraced the work that you put out there that it has such a strong message about animals and about other things?
Well, if we make make a simile between animals, the animals and politics is primarily the exploitation of animals. It's not the saving of animals. So when we say political animal, it's about big agriculture. It's about vivisection. It's about the animal exploiters. In terms of the art world, that's the same. The dominant narrative is about profit, making profit from art, from artists. But that's not all the art world. Just like the animal protection movement isn't about big ag. So within the art world, there's you. You have my work on your wall.
I'm looking at it right at this moment.
There you go. So you are the art world. I'm the artist. You are the art world. You decide what is art. And with the gallery I have, we've always been on the same page, is that they are anti-fascist. I mean, the gallery director escaped the Holocaust. She still is working at the gallery. So they're anti-fascist. They promote a different alternative. They certainly promote my work as an alternative, and they understand the economics of the art world are dominant, powerful, and again, promote a neutrality. That's, they're not promoting, the art world doesn't promote right-wing art because there's very little good right-wing art ever in history. So it promotes neutrality. It promotes culture that's above politics. That's impossible now. You can't promote that. Silly. So the art world, art doesn't happen until the viewer says that's art. Like I can be the artist, Suko, doing my art and thinking, this is good art. But until the viewer looks at that and makes it art, tells themselves this is art, it's not going to happen because I say so or a gallery says so. So the art world's everyone. Without people loving Rembrandt, there wouldn't be Rembrandt today. Someone saved Rembrandt. Someone saved Katie Colwitz. Someone saved those artists, hid them under their bed or looked after that work so future generations could see the trajectory of human struggle. And so they're the art world. It's not about rich people, although that's a big part of it. But yes, it's inherent contradictions. None of us can resolve. We can just be aware of them. Does that answer it?
That kind of answers everything in the world. Inherent contradictions, which none of us can resolve, and we can only be aware of them. I really do think that says it all. I want a bumper sticker that says that.
Yeah.
So what about the other part of the art world, the artists? Are there other visual artists? Do you feel, is this a movement within the visual arts? Because if it is, I'm not aware of it, of recording more authentically what's happening to animals. And I feel like there actually isn't that much art that effectively addresses the animal issue. Am I wrong?
I think, never before, because I travel to universities all the time and colleges, and never before has there been a group of young people so politicized and so aware of animal rights. And this is something completely new. So I've seen this change, and you have to pat yourself on the back for this, yeah, because this is happening. And yes, the fruits of that awareness are not clear, have not been harvested, but it's there. So there's very few people, young people in the under 20 that I meet that has not heard of animal rights, is not completely familiar with the concept, maybe not of abolition of all animal use, but they're absolutely aware this is very bad. And they don't want to be a part of it. And what can they do? So when I start, it's just a funny little aside. When I start to talk about going vegan and I come up with my vegan cheese recipe, there's a flourish of cell phones where people just have to type down this recipe.
That's so cool.
I know. It's just, this is the last thing they're clinging to, dairy products. And when they hear this recipe, they go, oh yes, I can do this now. So this is, you're right. I don't see much in terms of that work reaching the art world, because to be an artist is to be economically censored. So it's not just, when you're dealing with animal issues in culture, because animals are trivialized, the artist is also trivialized. So that body of work is trivialized, but I'm seeing a change. I'm absolutely seeing a change with this. And it's the same. You said this in your talk, Mariann, that I went to. You said you affect judges. Activists affect judges in trials. Well, the same thing happens with the art world. Activists affect museum curators. They affect art dealers and collectors. So suddenly they begin to see, oh yes, this is worthy of being a painting or drawing. This is important. This is what's going on. So in the same way you describe that, how judges are affected, how lawyers are affected. Same thing in the art world. So we're now getting curators in museums who are aware of animal rights, who don't trivialize it. And once that begins, and that has begun, then you'll see more young artists dealing with this subject matter. And it's really what I do when I go to colleges is give young